not declared in the technical sense, has become one of the essential practices of contemporary states, including so-called democratic ones. Faced with the unstoppable progression of what has been called a global civil war, the state of exception tends increasingly to appear as the dominant paradigm of government in contemporary politics. This transformation of a provisional and exceptional measure into a technique of government threatens radically to alter, in fact has already palpably altered, the structure and meaning of the traditional distinction between constitutional forms. Indeed, from this perspective, the state of exception appears as the threshold of indeterminacy between democracy and absolutism.
大家有冇咩意見或者問題？大家討論。
I think there's a. I mean, it's I guess the kind of procedure that Agamben usually kind of engages in is. I find this last paragraph on the first page to be very interesting. It's when he talks about if the law employs the exception that is the suspension of law itself as its original means of referring to and encompassing life, then the theory of the state of exception is the preliminary condition for any definition of the relation that binds and at the same time abandons the living being to law. I mean, there's already like, I think the two words that are very important is when he says this is the original means of referring to and encompassing life, and it's the preliminary condition, which means it's like the primary initial gesture of law. Like, it's not something that comes afterwards. It's already at the origin of the law itself. But then also, I mean, I think the whole question with this first chapter is when the law employs the exception, is the law negating itself, or is the law affirming its absolute right to encompass all life? And that's a question that Agamben doesn't, I mean, he's not really trying to solve it because it's actually a contradiction that's in the law itself, right?
呢個都其實佢裏邊佢冇去講嗰個佢有喺另一本書裏邊講嗰個呢個 structure。Homo Sacer 裏邊可能會講呢方面，即係佢有講個 law 嗰個 originary structure 喺 Homo Sacer 裏邊有一個 chapter 會講多啲。佢用咗一啲你可以話佢好似 topographical， 即係好似拓撲學咁樣嘅概念去解翻嘅。當然佢頭先阿 Lin 所講嘅問題，其實佢都係冇去 actually 佢冇去真係去 tackle， 即係裏邊有一個矛盾喺度咯，只能夠話。
But I think that's the point though, the 矛盾 is exactly what the law is. The law is something that's paradoxical.
其實嗰個矛盾，即係應該話啲人之前咧 post 過一啲延伸閱讀裏面，佢都指出咗矛盾個源頭唔係來自於即係純粹法律，而係即係推動或者即係掌握呢個法律嗰個即係 sovereignty 嗰個主體係一個深刻係一個 action body 一個人嚟嘅，或者一個主權嘅單位。因為就係呢個單位令到法律係即係賦予咗佢一個完善法嗰個權力。咁即係法律自己係唔識得完善自己，一定要係靠嗰個人去話 OK 呢一刻因為咁樣嘅 condition 完善法律，所以即係嗰個情況應該話即係喺法律嗰個框架裏面其實突出咗一個法律自己本身嘅自我排除點。
其實我覺得佢嗰本書其實係都算係有答案，不過可能怪嘅，即係佢第一句已經講呢個in necessity there is no law， 即係佢之後好似有一段係講話其實個 necessity 其實係 law 嘅來源，而唔係即係應該 首先有必要性之後先有 law 咁，因此即係佢係即係喺法律有一啲時候係為咗保護法律個系統，即係譬如就係內亂啊嗰啲時候，所以佢反而係要做一啲勾錯佢自己嘅即係我唔係幾多。
即簡單嚟講，法律就唔能夠保障佢本身，所以法律又要賦予一個即係法律唔去框架嘅東西去保護法律得。係啊。
我都有啲問題嘅，其實可唔可以問一問先？係因為咧，即係其實我都有睇咗第一個 chapter 嘅先，咁我就發覺有幾個 term 咧，佢交互咁用，咁我就唔係好明究竟 exactly 係咩意思。即係有幾個我覺得比較重要啲嘅 term。咁就係咧，佢會有陣時會講一個 juridical order 啦，之後咧有陣時會講係 law 啦。之後咧 juridical order 裏邊咧又會講一啲係 norm 嚟嘅，有啲係 application 嚟嘅。咁咧之後咧 law 咧又會同 fact 去即係相對應咁樣，即係 juridical order 又唔等於 law 又唔等於 fact。咁有陣時
juridical order 唔係 law 嚟。
係，我明白，但係我就想，所以就想知道即係最後佢有講個 necessity 啦，即係個 state of necessity 就係其中一個講法就係呢啲咁嘅意念係源自呢一個咁嘅 idea 係 law 係即係 law 係 from necessity 咁啦。咁我想知道其實佢後面即係第一段後邊咧，佢講 juridical order 同埋個 law 嘅關係咧，可唔可以都解釋下？
讀到落去嗰度先。
你講
即係而家其實未讀到落去嗰個。
哦，係因為一陣間讀到落去，再慢慢討論一下。另外咧，回應翻頭先你講嗰樣嘢咧，係咪嗰句拉丁文嗰句咧？其實中譯本嗰個序嗰度咧，個譯者寫個序嗰度咧係有講嘅。呢句嘢 necessity has no law 咧有兩種意思嘅，即係佢咁樣去解翻阿甘本嘅意思啦。第一個意思就係話 necessity 佢無視呢個 law 呢一樣嘢。第二個意思就係話 necessity 佢可以自己去 issue 一啲新嘅 law 出嚟，係啊，咁佢有呢一兩重意思去理解佢呢句説話，可能會比較即係把握得好啲。跟住咪我哋再睇落去，係咯。
不過呢一度都補充少少，頭先讀到嗰個位咧，其實有幾個關鍵字都帶過咗，即係譬如話。依人一開始講嘅時候，呢本書寫作係即係回應緊即係美國個即係對伊拉克嘅戰爭。咁其實呢一個就已經係講緊即係呢個所講嘅 global civil war 呢個全球嘅內戰。咁佢將個內戰就將佢全球化咗啦，先至可以將一啲唔係屬於個國家人再囊括喺佢呢一個內戰嘅定義，再將佢哋再排除翻出去。呢個
佢將個主權擴大到去一個全球，好似一個我哋所謂一個叫世界帝國咁樣嘅一個概念啦。其實呢個另外有本書叫 Empire 裏邊都有講，即係個作者叫 Negri 咁，佢有講類似嘅一樣嘢。咁我唔講太多嘅，你再睇落去。
呢個真係咁深即係如果好似二戰審訊戰犯，算唔算都係呢一類？即係將嗰幾個國家嘅權力擴大到戰敗國。
二戰應該就係咯，咁算咧。咁你佢係一種國際法嘅一種，即係或者國際法庭嘅一個 application 啦。咁但係佢執行嘅都係有幾個國家有幾個主權咁去執行，即係好似你判決咁，就有個法官去 dictate 一個判決係點樣嘅。咁而 Carl Schmitt 嘅有一啲論者講過就係話佢所謂嘅。即係呢個拆開咁講翻，決斷論其實有少少係個主權就好似一個法官去宣判或者去宣佈佢個裁決或者係啦，佢作出一個點樣嘅係啦，即係一個解釋一個裁決嘅行為，即係延伸呢一個咁樣嘅意思落去個國家主權嗰例外狀態嘅一個合理性嗰啲，
我想少少回應一下先。其實一二戰好即係啲簽嘅條約或者即係法庭嘅 個背景係根本冇所謂國際法，即係個軍事法庭本身可能會即係喺嗰個位開始建立咗個新嘅 institution 出嚟，但係佢本身唔係喺度排除緊一啲既定嘅國際法啊或者乜嘢。但係而家講即係個 Global Civil War 咧，佢其實已經係假定咗係大家對於咩叫內戰或者即係咩叫一個 civil 嘅 domain 有啲乜嘢東西，然之後你再去走去排除咗嗰啲大家都覺得係嘅，咁你先至可以即係變成一個 civil war。
或者再讀落去，再係討論就繼續讀落去。下邊佢有一個 The Expression Global Civil War 咩問題咧？
其實我想講嗰、第一、二戰嘅時候嗰、個情況同佢入邊講全球內戰應該係有啲唔同嘅，因為第一、二戰嘅時候仲係講緊一個民族國家主權好，即係仲係 emphasize 呢樣嘢，佢哋係有一個 nation state 喺背後，你要即係審判某國某人。但係全球內戰嗰樣嘢，可能佢已經唔重視你係嚟自邊個國家，或者唔係某國處理緊某個國家自己內部嘅嘢，而係一個 global 嘅概念，係同即係 empire 嗰本書講 empire， 即係帝國喺現代嗰個 sense 應該有關係。咁所以佢喺呢個情況底下再講 state of exception， 應該同之前第一、二戰嘅時候嗰種所謂處理犯人戰俘嗰個做法應該唔係好一樣，可能同政治難民或者而家嘅戰俘可能比較合適咯。
再或者再讀落去，係啦，再討論。係啦，繼續。
The expression global civil war appears in the same year, 1963, in both Hannah Arendt's on revolution and Carl Schmitt's theory of the partisan. However, as we will say, the distinction between a real state of exception and a fictitious state of exception goes back to French public law theory and was already clearly articulated in Theodore Reichnach's book, which is at the origins of the Schmittian and Benjaminian opposition between a real and a fictitious state of exception. Anglo-Saxon jurisprudence prefers to speak here of fancied emergency. For their part, Nazi jurists spoke openly of a real state of exception for the sake of establishing the National Socialist state. 之後下一段咯。The immediately biopolitical significance of the state of exception as the original structure in which law encompasses